Hey guys, you remember that dirtiest D&D story ever? Let's revisit that for a second. So, this was shortly after the dirtiest D&D campaign I ever played in, and I discovered that this book existed, and I discovered that it had a bunch of really cool ideas in it. And I took a closer look at that class. Now that class was called the Tantrist, and like I mentioned in that story, the Tantrist was a special arcane style class where in order to replenish spells, you would, at the start of every morning, you would have sex for 30 minutes. Yes, really. And then you would take a knife or something and you would carve the spells into yourself, kind of like tattoos. And you were basically a tattoo wizard. Now, I decided I wanted to go ahead and create a character. However, I was doing it much differently. I instead decided to create a wizard who was actually kind of a germaphobe and didn't really enjoy that sort of thing. He just noticed as he was studying rules and magic that it was way better to be a tantrist than to be a typical wizard. And let's go inside the mind of a teenage wizard for a second. Would you rather stay up all night memorizing really boring arcane formulas and doing all this practice and stuff to memorize just a couple spells that weren't at all that impressive or weren't at all that good in order to cast Magic Missile? You would spend years and years of practice learning how to cast Magic Missile, arguably one of the weakest and most useless spells in the game, except as a place filler or yada yada yada. Please don't at me, I know Magic Missile is useful in certain circumstances, but let's say for existence, you don't want to do that. You realize that it is a real bad practice to spend years and years studying magic when it had such a limited application for what you could invest in. There was no guarantee you could ever become a powerful sorcerer. Or, if you were a teenager, you discovered a book called The Book of Erotic Fantasy, and you saw that there were wizards out there who could gain spells much faster and have a lot more fun doing so. So I made a guy who, when he was younger, and when he was a teenager, he discovered that, oh, this was a thing. I could have sex and learn magic. And I did that a lot. In fact, it was encouraged. The more, the better. So he, throughout all of his teenage years, decided that he was going to be a tantrist. And he was just, like, mad skilled. He decided himself that he was going to become a prostitute because, gosh golly, not only could he learn magic, not only could he have lots of sex, he would actually get paid for it. And he was good. And he did all these things, and he became really popular for his fantastic sex magics. But as he grew older, it became less and less fun to him because it wasn't that good of a method of learning new spells. In reality, in D&D, becoming a straight up basic wizard was the best way to learn all the magics that you could and become the most powerful, because sorcerers had a very limited selection of spells, warlocks had to like owe their powers to someone else, and tantrists needed to bang, like you needed someone around. And while that may be fun for a while your hormones are raging, when you get older and things start to become less for you, it's not so exciting anymore. But that was just the fluff. That was just the character that I was going with. One interesting part of the Tantrist class is I saw no other class in the game do this. There were a few exceptions, but here is what was interesting about Tantrist. Tantrist progressed in an arcane spell list. Now in D&D, there are two kinds of magic, 3 or 4 if you include demonic or psionics, but we're not going to go there. There's basically two kinds of main magic. There is divine magic, which was magic that was granted to you from gods. And then there was arcane magic that came from a source called the Weave, which was like basically magic in the air. It's not important. There were lots of divine spellcasting classes that would grant you spells from the arcane list. There was actually a class in D&D 3.5 called the Archivist, and the Archivist was the most powerful class in 3.5 edition because they could learn pretty much every spell in the game, and they had party buffs, kind of like a bard. It was actually ridiculous. But the Archivist only ever casted spells from the divine spellcasting class. It was always considered divine. The Tantrist, however, was unique, and it was the only class in the game that casted arcane spells, but also got a divine domain as bonus spells, which means, as far as I could remember and as far as I could find, it was the only class in the game that would simultaneously cast arcane and divine spells at the same time, or in the same class. And from what I read this book a couple times, and I may have just missed it, but there was a difference between the arcane spellcasting and the divine spellcasting. It had both sources at the same time. Now, here's what is fun. There is a class in the game. It is a prestige class called Mystic Theurge. Now, this is a clear exploitation of read as written rules. The game was not designed to work like this, but it works like that because that's how the rules are written. Any DM in the world would say no to what I just suggested, but technically speaking. So, Mystic Theurge was a unique prestige class that would let you, when you level up in it, it would give you 1 level in divine spellcasting class, meaning it would advance the spell slots in that class. Not only would it give you 1 advance in divine, it would then give you 1 advance in arcane. Now, the way it was written is that you would get both of these bonuses and then you would attribute them to whatever. Now, the purposeful design of this is to like take levels in sorcerer and take levels in cleric, and then you would take those bonuses and apply it to those classes. However, that's not what I did. I took the Tantress class, a class that could simultaneously cast Divine and simultaneously cast Arcane. I took the Mystic Theurge and I put 1 level into Tantrist. Then I took the other one and put 1 level into Tantrist, which means the Tantrist class would be casting spells way above their weight class. Now, this probably would not work, but I convinced my DM to let me do it. So, by level 9, I believe, I'm trying to remember exactly how it worked, because essentially speaking, your spellcasting class was different from your character class. This is in case you take like levels in fighter, and then you take levels in wizard or whatever, and you level up the wizard casting spells. You don't get bonuses to casting spells if you take a level in fighter. You know what I mean? You don't just go fighter and then get bonuses to your spells. It doesn't work that way. So, I was, I believe, a 9th or 10th level character, but my casting level was like level 17, thanks to this cute little exploit. And so by the time I was like level 9, I was casting spells like Wish and Meteor Storm and Miracle, and all of these abilities that I should have had no right to access, but my DM let me get away with it. However, due to the character I just made, I kinda gimped himself because he didn't really enjoy being his class anymore. He was already kind of an old man. Now, you may be able to make the argument, well, why didn't he just make himself younger so he would enjoy doing it again? And it's funnier this way. So eventually I had to retire this character super early because he was like level 9 and he was like way stronger than anything else in the campaign because he was casting spells way outside his weight class. And that's really about it. Honestly, I can't think of much. I didn't really do much. This was one of those campaigns that ended way too early and Stuart got too powerful and broke the game with the sex class. That's it. Maybe sometime we can make up some adventures on what to do with this sex wizard, but let me ask you guys this in the comments down below. What would you do with this character who's level 9? He doesn't get enjoyment out of his class anymore. He's way more powerful than he ever right to be. But actually, you know what? I just realized this is Saitama. This is the Saitama wizard. Like I didn't write this. I didn't plan this. This was an epiphany that I came up with as I was recording this. So I got the Saitama wizard. The Saitama sex wizard. Saitama sex sorcerer. Yay! Like and subscribe.